Welcome, friends. So I felt the call to pull some symbols for the solstice, June solstice, which in the northern hemisphere is the summer solstice, in the southern hemisphere is the winter solstice. So this was an interesting experience for me because the unfolding of it felt different. Sometimes I'll feel the call to pull and I'll immediately do it. This time I felt the call to just ground and to tune in. I started channeling a little bit and I pulled the symbols before coming on camera. And so I'm going to share all of the different pieces and not necessarily put it together in a package with a bow, but just simply share what's come through so that you can then use your inner knowing, your intuition, to really take that in, take the energy, take the words, and allow it to resonate or not resonate for you, right? So, especially with these symbols, what I know to be true and feel to be true is that it's not meant to be rooted in an old paradigm where you go to someone else, an outside authority, to tell you, right? I need to go to a psychic because I don't know. These are meant to help you attune, connect, and trust your intuition. So I'm going to bring forth what comes through, again, knowing it's coming through and being interpreted through my own particular frequency, which may or may not resonate for you. Okay, so I always like to be upfront about that. So when I began to tune in, I began to just sit with the solstice and the period of time of the solstice, right? Leading up from summer to fall. And what came through really strongly was this sense of nurturing, and specifically the physical body. Really caring for the physical body. And, Taurus just entered, the Chiron just entered Taurus, which is also very much connected to the body. So as that came up and I remembered that, I thought, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And as I started pulling the symbols, my understanding is that this nurturance of the body, and it was really interesting because I had so much trouble sleeping last night, and a lot of it was, I have chronic pain, specifically at night. And so it really felt like a message of really being attuned to the body, honoring the body, nurturing the body. And I'm feeling called to share this too because it also came through. I've been sitting with this idea that the body gives us messages, specifically through ailments. I've wrote about it on my blog. I'll link them in the description if you're curious. But there's a sense of, what does it mean, right? What does it mean? I have a pain on my right side. What does that mean? It's feminine, it's this, it's that. And what's come through a lot is this idea of a misdirection of energy. And so the way I'm understanding it through the essence of how it felt was it's just kind of shifting from what does it mean to what is it communicating? What is it telling me? Because again, you're not separate, right? You are one. We sometimes put ourselves outside of the body, and as an eating disorder dietitian, that was very much part of my work with my clients and on my own journey. So really seeing the body as you as the body, and nurturing it, really nurturing it. And again, this might be more strongly rooted in my own journey because I've done a lot of work with the body and there's still work to be done. I think there's always work to be done. And I've had a lot of experiences that have helped drive that home, from hearing a fawn crying all day and hearing it suffer, and then recognizing that how much I have made myself suffer in the past, and really sitting with that and feeling it and having such deep compassion and not wanting to replicate that energy, and also seeing that energy in small little ways, right? Of feeling maybe stiff and not stretching, or like not doing things that I know would be supportive for whatever reason. And it's not that I'm actively harming my body or mistreating my body, but there's certain things that maybe I could be more attentive, right? Even just being more present while eating, honoring the food, honoring everyone that was involved with allowing that food to then nourish my body, right? Allowing that food and honoring everything that it takes in the body to break it down, to distribute the nutrients, to release what's not needed. Like there's so much that goes on that we don't even think about because we don't have to think about it, and honoring that, right? So this can mean so many things, and it's going to mean something different for you. If you are actively kind of like abusing the body in some sort of way, right? Overworking, not resting, working out too much, not eating enough, eating beyond the body's needs to the point of pain, drinking too much. Like there's so many things that people do to the body to actively harm it that are very overt. And then there are ways of mistreating the body, of not respecting the body, of not honoring the body, that are kind of insidious and can sometimes be hard to notice until you actually drop in. And so that is part of the call of this, is dropping into the physical body, being present in your physical body, being rooted in your physical body, because you are your body and your body is you. And when you are attuned to it, not thinking about like, what does this mean? What does this mean, right? That's from the outside in. Can you go inward? Right? Having this came through in a blog post, this revolution of going inward. Where instead of going outside of ourselves, whether that's to an outside authority or trying to think about what is my body telling me, drop in. What am I meant to know? What is being communicated? Because also this came through earlier in a channeling around this, how when you're connected to the physical, you can also then connect with the energetic. And maybe you're more aligned to connecting to the energetic. So again, it's many paths up the mountain. Notice what feels true for you. But when we can bridge the energetic and the physical, knowing that they are intimately connected, they are one and the same, just different expressions of the same thing, right? The physical is a physical manifestation of the energetic, and they both inform one another. When you can begin to see all of that as a unified field, in form, expressing uniquely as you, then you also begin to embody and attune to the frequency and embodied experience that you are connected to the all, that you are source energy, source frequency, however, whatever you want to label it as. Also knowing you don't have to, you can just simply be with it. You are having the embodied experience of that. It's like the path towards it, right? Because this idea that we are source frequency is really, really big. And you have to break down a lot of belief systems and paradigms that have been ingrained within our society for many, 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 many thousands of years. So can you do it with your own physical body and energetic body? And then slowly, right, as you begin to embody this experience, the essence of, you can then begin to expand outwards and outwards and outwards. As you become this unified field, you then see it in another. Maybe it's a flower or an animal, maybe it's a person, and you begin to expand outwards and outwards and outwards until you begin to realize that it truly is everything. And because it is everything, it is no thing. And it is one and the same, just different perspectives. Okay, so this embodiment will not only help with that, but it will also help with what came through in the symbols, which the first symbol that I pulled was mountain. And this particular orientation is more so about external, but there's also internal. And so in the way that I have received these, when it's pulled like this, kind of like when you pull a tarot or tarot card and it's kind of reverse, this is more about like inward challenges. So the way I interpreted this, and there's many meanings around mountain, which I'll have on screen in post, but the way I initially just felt this mountain was challenges, right? External challenges in the world, which is nothing new, of course. But again, there's this intimate connection, right? So what's going around us is also going within us. What's going within us is around us. So you can't really separate it. It's just, what lens are you seeing it through? So before I pulled the stones, though, I also felt, as I was feeling into the solstice energy, I felt this, it felt like a roller coaster, which is why when I pulled mountain, I thought, okay. And it wasn't so much like, when I think of a roller coaster, I'm like, okay, I'm on this high. Like, yes, I'm attuned, I'm grounded, I'm all these things. And then things kind of shift down and things get a little hard, right? That's been this energy I've been feeling since the fall very intensely. I mean, before that too, but very acutely aware of it since the fall, really, personally. But it wasn't so much of a roller coaster, it was an amplification. And when I felt into it, I felt this amplification of energy, this amplification of intensity of energy through the August, like peaking this crescendo in August, and then slowly kind of softening in intensity as we approach then the fall equinox. And then we begin harvesting, integration, etc. I'll pull symbols when we get there. But this kind of this knowing that energy will be intense, and that doesn't have to mean anything unless you put meaning on it, right? Some people hear that, they're like, oh God, no. And some people are like, yes, right? So you may already have this personal connection to what that means. And I invite you to notice that, sit with that, hold that, but don't grasp it. Because when you have that little nugget of knowing, when you hear it, it could be coming from a place of intuition and knowing. It could also be coming from a place of wounding and conditioning. So just notice it and allow yourself to be open, because that will give you so much more information than holding on to an idea of what it's going to be. So pulled mountain, which also stands for like steadfastness, grounded presence, multidimensionality, sovereignty, new perspectives, right? Because oftentimes people equate a challenge with climbing a mountain. But your perspective at the base of a mountain, your perspective at the top of the mountain, very different. Very different. So, new perspectives, which is also usually a byproduct, right, of challenges if we allow it to be seen through that lens. And then what came through twice, actually, because I pulled it and it just comes up a lot. Actually, ancestors and space, which also came up, have just been coming up so much. And so it came up again because I thought, let me just, and I think that was intentional of showing like, yes, this is a potent energy. And my read into this is that these challenges are going to be challenges that have been present for a very long time. And they're coming up to be seen, which again is not anything new, right? This time feels very much like that. But I think it's going to be more intense and more potent and more clear. And then space, right? There's a sense of moving through these challenges that have been here for a long time. This will help clear the space, but it's also creating that creational space that we can then create anew from. Not replicating, but truly being in this space of allowing something new to be born, to be birthed, to be cultivated and nurtured, just as we're nurturing our physical bodies. Learning and stepping into that embodiment of that energy of nurturing. And people have different orientations to what nurturing means, so that's also something to sit with for your own self. So that was this energy of the solstice kind of being this intensity, but this kind of crescendo of intensity around challenges coming up, specifically also connected to kind of like old energy, right? So this may mean that old wounds come up for you. This may mean on a world stage, right? Old wounds are being very present. And again, knowing that this is a time to clear that space, to allow for the new to come. And so then I felt the call to pull into more symbols, to kind of more like actionable symbols of how do we move through this. And the first one was water. And water is very much about flow and adaptability. If you think about water and rocks, right? It flows around the rocks, and over time it actually reshapes that obstacle. Water is also a mirror. Have you ever seen like a still lake and everything is just reflected beautifully off of the water? Water can be a mirror when it is still. And that is also something that's spoken about in ancient practices, right? Like meditation. This idea of stilling the mind is like still water, in which you can see the mirror of it so clearly. It's not distorted. When the mind is chaotic and moving and thoughts are flurrying around, it's really hard to see it clearly. It gets distorted. So this mirror and the water, what used to be called the waters, which I learned that from Veda Austin, who highly recommend check her out. She studies the consciousness of water. There is a sense of remembrance in the water. And if you think about our physical bodies, again, coming back to the body, it said that by volume we're about 60-70% water. At a molecular level, because every cell, right, contains water, like 99% water. So water, to me, in this means flow and adaptability, right? Not trying to resist it. If something arises, how can I adapt to this? How can I see it as a mirror of remembrance, which then brings to the next symbol, which is animal, which animal is all that natural instinct and also play. If you see animals, there's just a sense of like play, the way I see it. Also roles, all different animals. You think about animal kingdom, everything plays a particular role. They also have this gut instinct. They're also very present. And so the way I see this, and again, please be open to how you are receiving it if it resonates, but this sense of flow and adaptability, this mirror, as these challenges arise, seeing it with a sense of play, right? Having a sense of play is really, really important, because when we're really, really serious and we're really, really earnest about it, there's a place and a time for that, yes, but can we bring in a little play to bring in some levity, to bring in some lightness, to bring in some enjoyment, right? Play just brings about a sense of joy and lightness. It doesn't mean that you make a joke of it or you bypass it or you don't take it seriously. Like, you take it seriously, but not to the point where it becomes like a part of you, right? Because then you're just taking on more stuff, more identities, more roles. And so animals also asking you to, when something arises, can you see it as a mirror through the energy and frequency of water? See it as a mirror and notice all the roles that are being played. What role are you playing in it? What role, if others are involved, what role are they playing in it? What role are past selves playing in it? Past wounding? What are all the roles? And if you think about role as, say, like a character in a play or a character in a movie, it can feel very real when you're watching it, when you're in it, when you're playing it, right? If you were the actor. But it's a role. It's not who you are, right? And as we've seen in the past, actors, like method actors that become the role, it becomes really, really hard. And we've become so indoctrinated and ingrained that this is who we are, right? When it's a role that we're playing. And I talked about this in this video too, which is really interesting because Catherine O'Hara came through. I was watching Schitt's Creek, and it just, the experience of it helped me embody that understanding, less so at an intellectual level and more so at an energetic level. So to summarize, these are a lot of words, so if you're still listening, notice that, because that means that there's something connected, that something is resonating. Or it's not resonating, and that's also giving you information. It's all just information, experience. To summarize though, that the solstice is going through what I received, again, may or may not resonate. It's going to be this sort of energetic intensity that crescendos in August and then kind of simmers down by the equinox. And there's going to be challenges that come up, and some of them might be old stuff, personally, collectively. And it's allowing us to move through it, to heal it, to clear that space, to allow for something new to come. It's kind of like also if you think about, if you let go of something, all of a sudden something new comes. Like you're clearing the space so that something new can come. And I also invite you not to define it, but to really just be open. Because, at least in my experience, when I've surrendered and trust, what unfolds is not anything that I would ever imagined for myself. And that just helps me trust in the surrendering process. And how much I limit myself and what's possible. It's interesting to observe. And can you move through these challenges with a sense of flow, with a sense of adaptability, seeing it as a mirror in terms of all the different roles that were played with it? And not necessarily the meaning, but the purposefulness of that. And can you bring in a sense of play? So that you don't get stuck in identifying with it or holding on to it, right? Because the body keeps score. So this is really about letting go of that, releasing that. And that's also why being so attuned with the body, you may get a message, something old may come up, and it may come up through a physical something. And rather than be like, oh God, right? Or let me fix it. What is this telling me? Not necessarily what it means, but what is this communicating to me? And then just drop in. And you may not get an answer, but if you just drop in and create the space, right? Creating the space through this challenge, right? Of maybe a physical ailment arising that may be old in nature. Can you be in a state of reflection? What is it mirroring back to you? Can you just flow with it, not try to hold on to it, right? Can you be in a state of adaptability, but also noticing, right? Because water can shift states. So are you holding on to it like a block of ice? Are you freely moving with the natural current, moving through the obstacles, reshaping the obstacles? And doing it with a sense of play, and also just seeing all the roles. Because you might also realize that certain roles you've taken on, or certain roles that you've assigned to others, are just that. They're labels, they're roles that have then become something that becomes an identification, something permanent, something to judge, something to expect. And when we can just see them as roles, it's a little bit easier to not get stuck in them. It's like putting this hat on, okay. Putting this hat on, okay. Right? Rather than having the hat surgically connected to the body. It's just something you take on and you take off. In this lifetime and other lifetimes, they're just simply roles to experience, to tap into a particular frequency, to heal, to grow, however you want to see it, feel it, interpret it, or not. So, my sense is just sort of like a wrapping up around this, because it's a lot. There's going to be an intensity through this time, but it's a really special time of things arising to be healed, to create space for the new. So can you be adaptable, see it as a mirror, learn from it, grow from it, not identifying with it, right? Releasing the need to assign a role to it, to notice the roles that have been played. And a lot of this energy is just not grasping to it. Seeing it, allowing it to be, moving through it, understanding it, receiving the message, just like we're doing with nurturing the body. And lastly, I'll just say, the more you're connected to your physical body, the more you're rooted, the more you're grounded, the more you're connected to the earth. And the more you can then connect with everything and no thing. So, this again was a lot. You may just be sitting with the idea of connecting to your body. And it may just be a thought process. You may be actually moving into embodiment. You may be noticing the roles that you play in your life, how they're serving you, how they're not serving you, what needs to maybe change, what conversations need to be had, right? So a particular symbol may be resonating. So don't feel like you have to step into all of this. This is a lot. This is a collective reading, so something may resonate, and just notice that. But don't grasp. Just notice information and let it unfold organically in the way that's purposeful for you at this time. I was about to turn the camera off and I realized one thing that I forgot, that I kept getting nudges to say. The stones I was keeping them on my knees. They kept falling. They kept falling. Like, I even have a video here. They just kept falling. They would not stay still. And I think that is also the energy of things are going to be moving. Things will come and they'll go away. They'll come and they'll go away. So this is really a time of kind of like, the word that's coming up is upheaval, but it's not, doesn't necessarily have to be something bad or catastrophic. It could just be that things are not stagnant. So they're coming up to be released, coming up to be released. So just not grasping, not holding on, just being in present, embodied awareness. Okay, so thanks so much for watching. Feel free to share any comments, any questions that may have arisen for you. And until next time, friends, stay curious.